Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Isabel. I am your event planner for the Reactor, joining you live from Sydney, Australia. Before we begin this session, we have a quick housekeeping. We're committed to fostering a welcoming, inclusive, and supportive environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, please let's remain respectful and professional throughout the session. Today's session is being recorded and will be available to view on demand within 24 to 48 hours right here on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel. If this is your first time attending a Microsoft Reactor session, please note that you must create a YouTube account in order to have access and interact in the chat. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us on social media or through the Microsoft Reactor website. I will now turn this over to our speakers. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Hey everyone, super excited to have you. I know Martin and I have been waiting for this session to appear. We're both based in Australia and we're going to talk to you all about preparing for exam day. We know in this series you've learned all about the content, but now we want to give you the tips and tricks for that on the day. What do you do for the exam? How do you, give it your best go? And why do you want to get certified? So let's get into it. A little bit about me. My name's Heidi Hastings. I am a data platform MVP and a certified trainer as well. If you want to reach out to me after today's session, feel free to send me a message or go to my blog and check it out. Apologies, it's a little bit out of date. And as I said, based in Australia, so hence the accent, but you can find me all over the world at different events. And I love talking all things Microsoft and all things data. And what about you, Martin?
Hey, Heidi, great to be here. Pretty similar background for yourself. I think I started life as a SQL Server DBA, moved into the Azure space and later into Fabric and Power BI. Any of the audience can reach out to me like they can reach out to you. But Heidi, I believe we are live and interactive at the moment.
We are live, and even though we're in Australia, I see we've got people in the chat from Perth, from Sao Paulo in Brazil. We've got people in the US. I know our moderators are in the US. It's just amazing, all the different audience members that we've got from all around the world. So thanks for tuning in at whatever time of the day it is for you.
Yeah, so remember, drop a message in the chat. Let us know where you're from. It's really great to hear from you. We are live and interactive, which means if you're watching this streamed, we can obviously see your chat. You can drop messages in chat. We'll answer them, questions, comments, whatever. We've got a great team behind us and we'll introduce them here. We've got Garston Cruz coming to you from South America. And we've also got Chris Hyde coming to you from, I think it's Albuquerque in the USA. Both great MVPs and both willing to answer all of your questions and interact with you in any way we can. So let's take it away, Heidi.
Well, someone's turning 10 or something is turning 10. I'm super excited that we are here to celebrate. Happy birthday for Power BI. Join the celebrations. Go to this, scan the QR code, go to the aka.ms/PBI10 and come celebrate Power BI's 10th birthday. I mean, I saw some of the previous sessions. I've got the 5 Power BI shirts going on. Power BI's already 10. I mean, Fabric's 10. Almost 2. 10. Whew. It's all the features, all the community. It's amazing.
And who started at the top of the cake, Heidi?
Henry the Owl. Henry the Owl. Wow. If you've never seen Henry the Owl, don't worry. That's not a bad thing. Usually Henry only appears in the service if something's gone a little bit awry for a few minutes. Henry the Owl will appear on your screen. So he's the cute little animal character we get when something's not quite right within the Power BI Fabric service these days. So that's Henry the Owl. You rarely see him out in the wild, but he's the character for Power BI's errors. What else you got going on?
Oh, well, 50% discount for PL-300 and also PL-600. Now, the offer does expire, but it got a while to go to take it up. 31st of August. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself there. Supplies are limited. So scan the QR code, apply, register for your exam. We'll tell you all about everything you might need to know. Obviously, we don't have access to the answers. That's the one thing we can't share with you, but we can share lots of tips and tricks because we've done a few of these exams in the past, Heidi?
Oh, we have indeed. We've done a lot. And these vouchers are really handy, especially, you can take the exam. If you need to retake the exam, having the vouchers handy, but you can also buy things like an exam plus a retake sometimes. But I love these vouchers. Couldn't get enough of them. I remember people saying, you see them in the blog sometimes on the Power BI blog series, and people go, oh no, that surely they would have been taken up. No, give it a go. Usually these codes are pretty available and accessible to the community. So definitely try and get those discount codes and join the DataViz. Right.
Yeah. DataViz competition. I've seen a few of these. I've seen my first one at FabCon this year, Heidi. I think you were there too. And people are not only people putting things in this competition, but they're sharing their dashboards online, inspiring other people. And I think the DataViz competition is a great way to get to know different standards of visualizations. What do you think?
Absolutely. Like we always knew there's the heroes in the visualization world creating those data stories for the community. And now we've given them an opportunity to really shine and share that with the world to be able to demonstrate their skills. And on top of that, we've got the Fabric user panel. So if you're not like Martin and myself and MVPs, we are given our MVP community and everything, we get access to the product team and things like that. But you can do it too. So Fabric user voice gives you the opportunity to influence the product direction and the roadmap and really get hands-on with discussing about the different features that are happening with Power BI, and as an extension of that, the features that are going into Fabric. So if you've ever wondered how you can provide back to the product or how you can give your feedback, of course you can put your stuff in the ideas forums, but this is another way to engage with Microsoft on that product development and really get hands-on with what you're seeing in the product and the features. And it's an absolutely invaluable opportunity to give this a go.
Yep, I agree there, Heidi. And it's really great that the product teams that, put so much effort into these products are willing to listen to the wider audience and prioritize features that are important to our users at the end of the day.
Exactly. And I know we're wearing our FabCon shirts today from FabCon 1 and 2. And now we've got FabCon happening in Europe, second time. Like,
oh, yes.
Absolutely unreal. This one's in Vienna. So 15th to 18th of September 2025, Vienna time zone. If you do happen to live in Europe and you're able to take some time away from the day job or the desk job and head on over to Vienna, I know I'll be traveling from Australia to Vienna to present. It's an absolutely amazing opportunity to sit with thousands of Fabric data professionals that do things from Power BI visualization, security, modeling, data transformation, tenant administration, automation. Not only are you networking with the Microsoft people who deal with the product and support it, but you're networking with all the community members around the world. So it's an absolute amazing opportunity to connect with other people in the community. Even if you've got those, little niggly problems you've been trying to solve and you can't quite solve them, why not bring them along to FabCon in Europe and try and get the answers while you're there and get that community feeling around it. But if you're going to go, use that discount code, FabLive, £200 discount. I know that from the currency conversion, that's almost double for us in Australia. That's amazing benefit. So definitely get on to that.
I've got to keep reminding myself, Vienna is in Austria. It's not in Australia. I don't want to end up in the wrong place.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, you're more than welcome to come to Australia. We'd love to have the data professionals come visit us in Australia. We do have a couple of events down here, but this one in Europe. And there's going to be also, they've announced FabCon in the USA in Atlanta for 2026. So if you can't get onto this one, maybe plan ahead for that one.
Plenty of time to plan, Heidi. Plenty of time to plan. But this is part of a series. And what have we missed anything so far, Heidi?
Well, we're the last one in the series. So up until now, you've been learning how to prepare your data, how to model it, how to visualize it, how to manage and secure that platform. Hopefully, you've been following along with the Learn modules at the same time. So now we just want to give you that, what's it like to do the actual exam? What does it entail? How do you set up your environment? How do you work with the exam? What are the types of questions? What's the benefit in doing it? We're going to give you that, the final exam prep, so that you're as good to go as possible. You can rewatch these sessions. They're running in 2 different time zones. The recording's available straight after the live stream. We're, of course, delivering it live, but it'll be recorded. So if you're not live, you're watching us back. Unfortunately, we won't be in the chat to help you at that point, but you will be able to see all the questions other people have asked. So definitely get onto that one. But let's
good stuff, Heidi. Good stuff. So let's get into the content. Preparing for exam day and open Q&A. So we're talking exam prep. We're going to leave, well, hopefully we'll leave some time for questions at the end. But if you've got questions, drop them in the chat, and please have your questions ready to go. Right. So why get certified indeed? So let's answer that question. Why should we get certified? Well, a whole heap of reasons, really. And they might be different for different people. You might want to demonstrate your proficiency, get hired quicker, get rewarded. Maybe you just, like myself, I just want to prove that my knowledge is up to scratch. Obviously, we can Google things, we can read books and that, but having that knowledge deep-seated in your brain is a good thing. But different people come to get certified for many different reasons. Heidi, why did you get certified? Sorry, that might have sounded a bit odd. Why did you pass the exam, Heidi?
Well, weirdly enough, I used to absolutely hate taking exams. I finished my university degree and I thought, great, no more exams. I'm going straight into the workforce. I've had enough. But I turned it into a bit of a gamification process. I think in the last couple of years, I racked up another, I think it's like 13 or something now. What I like to do is I like to do all the learn modules, go through the study guides, give myself a bit of a practice run, play with the products, do all the end-to-end tutorials. In the case of Fabric, I also go do the applied skills challenges. I try and go through the learn modules, give it a go, and then I gamify it in going, let's sit the exam and see how well my knowledge is. The exams aren't designed to be the absolute expert top of the tier. They are role-based exams when they hit the associate and expert level, which is what the 300 exam is, and also the 600 and 700 in the Fabric space. But they're designed to be sort of that middle area where it's like a beginner won't be able to just come in, do the learn modules and take the exam. You need a little bit of more hands-on experience, maybe 1 to 2 years, or just applying the knowledge from those learn modules, but you don't have to be absolutely expert in everything. I love the gamification, and it gives you that reward. Like the fact that you can get to the end of the exam, and we can sit them online, or you can go to a testing center in person and sit the exam at a testing center. I often sit them at home, and I love when I get to the end. It's always a stressful moment hitting the finish button, but almost instantaneously I get my report back that says whether I passed or whether I failed. And yes, I have failed a few, but I'm okay with that because it's an opportunity to learn. And those failures give you that. But I love being able to do the knowledge, do the work, do the study, and then go, right, let's give it a go. And I highly encourage anyone, if you're not into exams, it might not be a thing, fair enough. But if you want to give it a go and you want to have something on your CV that demonstrates, maybe sets you apart from other candidates going for a job. I know I looked at it from that perspective sometimes. I would go, hey, look, if I'm the only one who's got this cert, that might just edge me a little bit closer to getting the job opportunity I want, or it might give me more opportunities with my current employer.
Yep, and opportunities to get promoted as well. Interesting stat I heard the other day, 90% of people who've earned qualifications like this in the past said they'd recommend it to a colleague. And I can agree with that because I think I've recommended you do exams, you've recommended I do exams, and we both got satisfaction out of them, Heidi.
Well, and the other thing I like is once you're taking the exam once, it takes the fear out of the unknown a little bit. You've already now seen, 40 to 60 questions. Sure, there's going to be different questions each time you do it, but there's an overlap. There's a pool of questions that get put into the exam, and you get a series of them as you go through. So taking that fear out of the unknown of what are the questions, what does it look like, how are they worded, what's the areas of knowledge I need. Doing it once at least gives you a little bit less fear. That way you come into it a second time and you're like, okay, I've got to study up on this area, or I thought my skills in this one were really good, but maybe I need to just spend a little bit more time brushing up those skills. And I see some people in the chat are asking us, if you don't pass, do you have to pay the full tote odds to do the exam again? Yes, you do. That's why you look at opportunities where you can buy exam vouchers. And those exam vouchers, not the one that you can see the 50% off here, but there are other ways of buying the exam vouchers which give you a retake opportunity. So you can sit the exam and have the second one, if you want to retake it, already paid for. It's kind of like a 2-for-1 option. But the other thing to remember is when you do sit the exam, if you fail it, if I remember the terms and conditions, I do recommend double checking this, but you can resit it 24 hours later, and then you can resit it again, but you have to wait like a 2-week period between each subsequent reattempt, up to about 5 in a 12-month period. So you've got an opportunity to sit the exam and then retake it. The voucher we've got in this deck that you've seen with the QR code is simply giving you a discount code on a single attempt purchase. But there are other ways to buy the exam by vouchers. But we're going to give you a lot of tips today.
We certainly are. We certainly are, Heidi. But so in answer to kind of that other question as well, there's a bit of a data skills shortage out there. So that's another real incentive to get going with the data visualization and Power BI in general. So my skills tend to be more behind the scenes. So people don't really tend to see what I do. But the people who do the Power BI, the customers want to see that. They want to interact with the nice shiny dashboards and that. And, it puts you front and center of the data skills shortage, so to speak. AI, IoT technologies, generally they're generating more and more data. And that's more and more data that people want to look at in various different ways to slice and dice maybe things they didn't know or how their solutions are going. And that's kind of quite a cool thing. So the gap between like the demand for data professionals and the availability of talent in the market today, obviously it's slightly different in different places all around the globe, Australia, South America, USA, obviously in terms of population, but you want to try and be bridging that gap and making yourself available to take advantage of that shortage in the market and really get those jobs that you to pay well, help you support your families, and so on and so forth. Another interesting stat I heard along the way: 46% of business recruiting for roles requiring data skills, they've struggled to do so over the past 2 years. So that's a huge opportunity to learn, get certified along the way, and be one of those people who get those roles. What do you think, Heidi?
Well, I think the other cool thing is we can work remotely. Working in the data field allows us to work from sort of anywhere in the world. It just depends on the customers and clients we work with. But if you're just trying to crack into the market, things like certifications give you that way to demonstrate your skill without necessarily having that hands-on experience with a company yet. If you're trying to go for your first job in the Power BI space, this certification can kind of help with that because it demonstrates you have a certain level of knowledge and that Microsoft have confirmed that base knowledge with you. The other option is competing in those Power BI Viz challenges and putting your Power BI reports. Just do some Power BI reports in your spare time. Use data that's available to you, whether it's, your fitness tracker, health data, whether it's your inventory from your pantry and your fridge and your kitchen, or whether it's just working with the rainfall stats in your region to work out what the rainfall rate is in your area. Build up some Power BI reports, put them on the data stories gallery if you've never seen that, which shows your knowledge out there to the world. And then someone might pick it up and go, hey, I saw your report. Or if you're sitting in an interview, you can be like, hey, I created this Power BI report about rainfall stats. Do you want to have a look? That's showing them experience without necessarily having that hands-on job. So definitely that skill shortage. It's global, which means our field is a global field. It's something you can do all over the world. It's also something that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. AI is needing data. So definitely an area to get into.
Yeah, Heidi, I think you're definitely right. And remember, folks, this series was designed for people, who are already in the data engineering field. So a lot of what me and Heidi saying, we're probably reiterating things you already know. So the question you've got to ask yourself is, should you upskill on this Power BI fabric journey over the course of time? But take us away, Heidi. Tell us how we should prepare.
Absolutely right there. So we're going to talk about how to prepare. The very first thing, if you've never seen the Microsoft Learn modules, you want to go to aka.ms/learn. Those Learn modules allow you to go through either doing a role-based study or whether you can do it in a specific target area. If you want to learn how to get data into Power BI, you can do the module for that. If you want to learn how to transform data with Power BI, you can do the module for that. If you want to do this exam, the PL-300, you can do the module that's targeting all the PL-300 content. One thing to be aware of is that exam content in the Learn modules, what you're learning about, can include preview features. The exam itself will not include preview features. So anything that's in preview is generally not included in the exam questions. But you want to go through those Learn modules. And if you've never seen the 30 Days to Learn It challenge, or if you watch Microsoft Ignite or Build, sometimes you see these Learn challenges. Sometimes they call it a cloud skills challenge. What it is doing the Learn modules in a fixed time period, like a 30-day window. So check out those, because sometimes they come with vouchers as well, but it gives you that motivation. Setting that destination target time, like 30 days out, pushes you to try and get all those modules completed in the 30 days. And they often have quizzes at the end of them, or end of a section, so that you can test your knowledge on that section. Those quizzes targeted against the Learn module, so it won't be the same style of quiz you get in the exam. The other thing is to look at expert-led exam learn together sessions. If you prefer to learn with other people or learn through watching rather than learn through reading or doing, then sitting in on a learn together session, that's really invaluable, because you can listen from different experts within the field, both from beginner level through to expert, because attendees may be of varying skill sets, and the people, running the session are often the experts or advanced users in the field. So it's important to, leverage the community to be able to help you on your learning journey, especially if you're in a role at the moment and you're the only Power BI person, you don't necessarily have anyone else around you. So jump onto those sessions where you have that community to be able to help you study, a bit like a study buddy, really. And but not everything's covered in those Learn modules. So do try and access the tool, sign up for trials, open Power BI Desktop, and give the actual Learn content a go. Run through some end-to-end tutorials.
Yeah, that's really true, Heidi. And studying, there are a lot of resources out there that you can absorb and learn from. I mean, learning from other people is great too. You can add those to one of your resources. So we see a link there at the top of the screen, aka.ms/PL300 prepare. And very similar link to every single other exam that Microsoft have got, but obviously we're talking PL300 here. So you can go along to that link. It'll break the question content down into different sections and even subsections, and it'll help you identify, what your strengths, what might not be such strong points, and what you need to focus on maybe to get going. And identifying those, those blind spots that we've all got, those shortcomings that we might have. We've all got things that we really like, that we concentrate on maybe more than the things we don't like. But getting to know basically what our weak points are will really go towards helping you pass the exam. So I don't know. I haven't got the study guide or anything handy, Heidi. Have you, or should we have a look later?
Oh, yes. Here's one we prepared earlier.
All right. Okay, that's cool.
If you're trying to wonder where this study guide is, by the way, head on over to the PL300 page, and you want to scroll down, keep scrolling, keep going. Those are the Learn modules we talked about before. We'll also tell you about the practice test in the Sandbox. But if you keep on scrolling down, you'll see in this section under Certification Resources, the PL300 study guide. Now, what is that study guide? Well, the study guide is basically, and there I go hitting PowerPoint. Hang on a sec. Okay. So the study guide breaks down the exam. So it goes through, the actual exam process, the certification process. But what it also does is tells you about updates to the exam, because these exams aren't static, same way the product is not static. They're updated throughout the years as time goes on. The new features get added to the product, the exams get adjusted. It goes through and tells you the potential audience that should be considering taking this exam. But if we scroll a bit further, the things you want to look at is what are the skills that this exam is going to go through. So they break down, we have these high level headings. So we have things like preparing your data, modeling the data, visualizing and analyzing, managing, securing. So you can see here, we get an idea of the percentage that content is going to take in the exam. And then within each section, we even have a further breakdown to be able to let us know what are the key sort of areas they're going to focus on. And it won't be everything, like you don't see certain things here. You won't see preview features in this list. They won't do things that are necessarily premium only. but you can get some questions in that space. You don't see Direct Lake, for example, even though Direct Lake is something that Power BI can work with, because this is focused on Power BI only content, and Direct Lake is specific to having Fabric plus Power BI contents. So this goes through all the different sections in depth. And so what you might do, and I think, Martin, you do this, is take the study guide, sort of put it in your favorite, spreadsheet tracking appliance, and then go through and work out, okay, select appropriate column types. Let me go read up on the different Learn modules related to that. Let me go use my favorite search engine to look at some different topics in that space. Let me open the tool and have a look through. And then you can indicate, okay, I've gone through that level, or put some links in, and then move on to the next topic in the next one and work your way through this list. Yeah,
that's right, Heidi, because I just bang all this into a spreadsheet. I'll go through maybe a practice test. Maybe we'll look at one later. And I'll say, yeah, okay, I'm comfortable with this. I'm comfortable with that. And then there'll be a point and I'll be like, oh, I'm not too great on that. Maybe go and research it, make a few notes within one of the cells, and basically just keep doing that until I get to a point where, I'm probably reasonably comfortable with everything. Obviously, there's going to be things on the list that, you're really great at. And it's going to be some things that you're not so good at. But on the whole, so long as you're reasonably comfortable, or comfortable to, 60, 70% with most of the questions, I think you're then going to be in a really good place to sit the exam. Well, that's my thoughts on it, Heidi. Obviously, you might have different thoughts.
No, absolutely. The one thing to note is just those percentages, because if you're really strong in preparing the data, but not so much in visualizing, you've got to look and go, well, visualizing is 25 to 30%. So I may want to brush up my skills in that space. But ultimately, give it a go, and then you'll know how you go. All right.
Exactly. Dive in, bite the bullet, take the chance, see where you are. And if nothing else, it will give you that additional confidence. Even if you don't do so great, you took the exam, you've took a step forward. Okay. So whatever the outcome, you took a step forward, and you've on your journey to eventually at some stage get certified.
Exactly. And we know that not everyone knows all the different community members out there in the world. We've been lucky enough to work in the data professional space for a little while and got a few of the names. So we popped them in the bottom of the deck here. So you can see people like Pragati, Data Mozart, or Nicola. You can see people like Andy Cutler, Kevin Chant, Shabnam Watson, our two moderators in the chat, Chris and Gaston. There's a plethora of community people that are out there to help you. So definitely reach out to us in the community. Join your local user group or join a virtual user group that's applicable to your time zone. That might help. Watch the recordings. Jump on different YouTube channels. I think Will Needham's another one. We didn't list him there. But he's got an excellent series with study cram sessions and everything. And these reactor sessions are invaluable. The other thing we've got.
Sorry, Heidi, I was just before you move off that slide. Yeah, the user groups around the world are really great resources. And most of them now, as well as meeting in person, most of them even do virtual meetings, or they'll put their content up on YouTube afterwards. And so we might be in Australia, but we can still watch things in the UK. I run a group. It's not Power BI focused, but it is Fabric focused, and we run it at lunchtime in Australia. But this means the people in the US, it's evening time over there. They can still join. People in Singapore might be early in the morning. They can join as well. So don't just look in your locality, and look around the world and see what people are doing. And if nothing else, it will help you make friends.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just ran the Adelaide Power BI and Fabric user group yesterday, and we were learning all about one of the external tools in Measure Killer. So it's really cool to have the people there, and we were able to record it, which means we can share it with the community later. So you can watch those recordings sometimes if it's not the best time or something comes up. Check out the recordings just in case, similar to this one, which will be available on the YouTube channel after the fact. The other thing we can do is consider taking the practice test. Now, what is the practice test? Word of warning, don't treat the practice test as the actual exam. You can score 100% in that practice test. That does not mean you will automatically score 100% in the exam. It is more a way to give you a bit of an assessment to check your knowledge. The actual exam itself is structured a little bit differently, and we'll call out the differences as we go through. But like earlier, here's one we prepared earlier, the actual practice test. So similar to before with the study guide, if we go up in those list of links, we have the practice assessment. Now, this assessment has a series of questions. It is like the exam, and it's a pool of questions. So initially here you can see this is my question 1. Now, the first thing to point out, this is a multiple choice question, and every question in the practice test is multiple choice. That is not how the exam is. The exam has different types of questions, but this does give you a way to test your knowledge, and you can check your answer. So if I just randomly pick one, I haven't read the question, so this is likely going to be wrong, but I can check my answer, and now I see, okay, I got the answer wrong, and this is the reasoning behind it with the link to the Learn module to give me more. So what some people do is try and get about 80+% on the practice test. If I hit refresh on the browser, I go back in, new practice test, see, get a different question 1. So keep going through it. You will start over time as you do this over and over and over again. You will start to see repeat questions because it is that pool of questions, but it does let you know the style of how questions are written, because often how they're written can help you with the answer. So if you read through these, they'll be generically worded like we have a workspace, workspace A, we have a report, report A, and we need to do something. So in this case, we need to create a dashboard from a published report. Which option in the report should you use? And these are all, they're designed to be valid answers, but also distractors. So you've always got to look for what is the best style of answer. So sometimes when there's multiple options available, often it's like, okay, what's the level of least privilege from a security one, or what's the cost optimized version? So you've got to consider those things, but definitely read through the questions. But this gives you an idea of how the questions are structured, and it gives you an opportunity to test your knowledge for free.
Yeah, and Heidi, you did something there that I think we should bring up with the audience. So obviously that was just a demonstration, and you picked a random answer, and the random answer you picked was wrong. But one of the things that does happen in the exam, you might come across a question where you're like, oh, I really don't know the answer to that, you know, or you don't dwell on it. My advice would be, don't dwell on it. Have a guess, you know, I guess it's better than nothing. But there'll be a button, a checkbox up the top of the question, and that'll be mark for review. So give it your best shot, answer the question, mark for review, finish the exam. Obviously, don't submit it as finished, but work through all the questions, and then you'll have the opportunity to go back and review all the questions that you ticked for markers review. And then you're like safe in the knowledge of, like, I've answered everything. I'm not actually going to run out of time. I might have 10 minutes left. I might have 20 minutes left, whatever it is. You're in there. You've got the time available to you, and you can basically look for the answer. Because, Heidi, I noticed on that slide, it says familiarize yourself with Microsoft Learn. You can use this during the exam.
Yes, that is a recent change. Like, it's only happened in the last sort of 12 to 18 months, I believe, where previously the exam was closed book. You had to only rely on the knowledge available to you at the time as you're sitting the exam. But now they've made available the Learn modules while you're in the exam. So while you're in the exam, you can open up the Learn docs. It'll split the screen basically in two, and it'll show you the Learn docs window. You don't get the ability to just sort of use a Copilot or a Control F. So you kind of have to know where you're navigating through those docs, and then you can review the information. So it's more of an open book style, but you don't want to rely on that too heavily, because to go through that does take time. So I think Martin and I have probably the similar opinion here. You go through the exam, you do as best as possible, you mark things for review, and then you give yourself a little bit of a time to go through those in review ones, and you can use the Learn docs. If you think, hey, I'm not too sure, but I've got a time available and I reckon I know where to navigate in the Learn modules to go see where the information might be to help me answer this question, then you can do that. You can open up the module and go through and have a look.
Yeah, too right, Heidi. So my rule of thumb here is first pass of the exam, just go through it like you didn't have Learn, like it wasn't there. Take your best shot at the questions. You probably know maybe you'll be familiar-ish with 70, 80, 90% of them. Obviously, you'll come across the odd one you don't know. Give it your best shot. So first pass, done and dusted. Come to the end, you might have 10, 15, 5 minutes left. Use that time wisely. Go to Learn if you need to. Entirely up to you. That's a strategy I use. It's worked for me, and sounds like you're pretty similar.
Yeah, and the other thing to note with this, there's no timer on here. I can take as long as I like to work on this practice assessment, but the exam itself is timed. So what you might want to do is set a timer on your phone or on your computer, and then give yourself that exam-like experience. Go sit the practice test in a condensed period of time, and then review at the end and go, how did I go? And then go do some learn modules, come back and sit it again. There's no timeout or anything in terms of how many times you can load this. I can hit refresh and get different questions. I can go through and do the 50 that it gives me available, and then I can go through and refresh and go sit another 50. Just another way to learn the different content there.
Yeah, that's right.
But we've got other tips to share with you. Other tips.
We have.
Well,
Let's have a
else
look.
Can we share?
What else are we going to share?
Well, this is what we talked about before, but here's visually seeing it. So pretty much what happens is there's a little menu navigation on the left that allows you to open up the Learn area. This is what it will display. So you'll get access to everything that is on learn.microsoft.com, except things like Q&A. You won't get things like the practice test, and you won't get a Copilot or a Control F experience.
Good point. So it is slightly limited a little bit then, Heidi?
It is slightly limited. So you've got to really know where you're navigating and what terminology to use to make the best of it. But it's something that's available to you. So if you get through the exam and you think, I'm not quite sure, I want to just give myself that little bit of extra help, go look at this. If you are multilingual or taking the exam in a different language, the Learn will display in the language same as the exam. So if you're taking the exam in Portuguese, the Learn content will be in Portuguese as well. So if you do need that, and if anyone's got accessibility needs, if you've got visual impairment or anything like that, make sure you check out the Microsoft options for accessibility, because they do like to provide these to people with different needs. And sometimes you need something that's different. So make sure you check what is available to you. It may mean going to a testing center to your exam, or it may mean you can do it virtually proctored, but they give you different opportunities to be able to sit through these exams.
Yeah, so you bring up a really good point there, and I think this is maybe one case where people overlook it. You might want to use Learn during the exam, and knowing how it's kind of structured and how you can click around it will be really beneficial to you if you're like under a bit of time pressure and you want to navigate to a particular section. So, being familiar with that, the Power BI section, and it's split into various groupings depending on whether it's visualization or modeling, and just being familiar with that might save you a couple of seconds, which could be quite valuable to you at the end of the day. So sorry, Heidi, I just thought that came to me on the spot. I thought I'd bring it up.
Nah, absolutely, Martin. I think we've covered off multiple of these as well. And if we've got a little bit of time towards the end, we will try and open up the exam sandbox, which is a simulator for taking the exam, so you can really see what the interface looks like, and we'll show you a bit of tips in that space. So let's look at what else we got.
Yeah, okay. Right, exam format and scoring. So there's a few things we've got on here, Heidi, that we probably need to know about. So roughly, I think we've got about 60 questions. Is that right?
We do indeed, about 60. Now, that doesn't mean you have to get every single one correct. That just gives you an idea of how many you've got to try and do in the time period available to you. Each exam can have a different amount of time. With the PL-300, you're looking at 120 minutes. They give you 100 minutes to actually do the questions and 20 minutes for instructions, comments, and anything else. So when you actually go into the exam platform itself, you'll get a series of instructions. Then you'll indicate you're ready to start the exam. Once it's started, that's when that 100-minute window goes. And then once you've finished, if you want to provide feedback back on the exam, you have the opportunity to do that and provide some feedback back.
Just one thing I noticed there, Heidi. So you said 120 minutes, you've got approximately 60 questions. So the way I would work it out is, okay, that's 2 minutes a question. But what I do is, and there'll be some questions in there where you just I know the answer, bang, I've done it. You've saved yourself a bit of time. However, there's other questions which you'll need to take a little bit more time on. I noticed we've got case studies there on the end, where you might have to read a section about the particular problem, and then answer maybe many questions about that case study. And those, although they won't be massively in depth, they'll be a little bit more in depth than multiple choice questions. So be aware of that.
Yeah, and the other thing to remember with a case study, if you've never seen it, case study is a large volume of text to read through broken down into sections. So it'll talk to you about the use case for a particular company. It'll talk to you potentially about different security needs for that company, different challenges they're facing and what they're looking to go through and change. And then you get a series of questions about that use case. Though you don't have to read the whole use case. You can go to the questions and then go through and target read the use case sections for those questions. So sometimes reading the whole case study documentation takes a little bit of time. If you're short on time, consider reading the question and then target read the case study for that question. But when you're in the case study, once you've answered the case study questions and you've said, yep, I'm ready to go to the next section, you can't go back and review the case study. It's one of those little catch-22 areas where you do it and that's it. There is no going back and reviewing.
Well, Heidi, they're the only type of questions, are they, where you can't go back? During the main exam, we can go backwards and forwards. Probably don't advise it, but you can.
There's one other scenario where you can't go back, and that is they introduced it a bit like when they did some changes to the UI and added the access to the Learn docs, was you can actually take a break. So if for whatever reason, if you need to take, a bathroom break, you can indicate you'd like to take a break. When you do that, you're not allowed to review any question before that. So if you're absolutely desperate to go to the bathroom, unfortunately, you won't be able to review any question prior to taking a break. You take a short break. When you come back, you restart the exam with the same timer countdown for the remainder. You just can't go back and review questions.
Yeah, so I guess that's another thing to be ready for. Before you take the exam, before you've started it, clear your desk, get yourself a drink. You can take a clear container into the room. And obviously, it's a clear container of water. That would be absolutely fine. And you can't take in like a cup that you can't see through. Obviously, go to the toilet. Make sure you're all ready, you're all settled, and then just dedicate the next 2 hours of my life is getting certified on whatever it is. In this case, Power BI.
Exactly, and we talked about the practice test being only multiple choice. The exam itself has a varying. Now these concepts are probably going to be foreign to you. Drag and drop is a bit like you'll have a series of answer statements and values on the left, and on the right will be basically like a fill in the blanks, or it might be you need to provide access to the finance team to this workspace or this report. What are the steps in order to achieve that? And you drag and drop and put them in there. You've got things like hot area, which is selecting on a screen a particular area of the screen, hot area and active screen. Drag and drop. The other thing is the ability to, you may get a sentence where there's a blank value with a drop down field, and you'll select the value from that drop down field. Now, not every question is a one question, one answer, 1 point. Some questions are worth more points. So you also got to watch for those things. But conscious of the time, let's talk about how this exam is scored. So the exam itself, you saw on the previous slide, we don't have 100 questions. We don't have 1,000 questions. We have an assortment of questions. Now, those questions total up to 1,000 score. To pass the exam,
do I just need 70% to pass?
No, it's not 70%.
Really?
You need 700 points. So going through all the different questions, if let's say it's a multiple choice with 2 answers, potentially that's a question that is a 2-point question, not a 1-point question. Different questions have different weighting. And remember, we talked about visualization has like 25 to 30%. So you'll probably get more questions on a higher weighted subject area. And so you want to do like reasonably well in those ones. But you go through and you need 700 score. And the great thing about the exam is at the end of it, you'll get a pass or fail, and it will let you know your score between, the 0 and the 1,000. So it'll go, okay, what did you get? You got 700, cool, passed. 800, passed, cool. 699, unfortunately didn't pass. But you'll get how you went through each of the different section headings. So those each high-level topic areas like getting your data, transforming your data, you'll get an indication of you're either strong in that area, weak in that area, and some learn modules that you can try and do better. The other thing to note is the exam gets reviewed all the time. So do provide feedback on questions. If they're not clear or they're not good, you can go in and make adjustments. You don't get a deduction if you get one wrong. You just don't get a point because you didn't get it right. So as Martin said earlier, don't overthink it. You've only got a window of 100 minutes to do, 40 plus questions. You do see a timer in the top right of screen. If the timer freaks you out or causes anxiety, you can toggle it so it's not visible. But if you have it on, keep a bit of an eye on it and go, okay, I'm about halfway through the exam. I'm 3/4 of the way through the time. Need to make more like judgment calls as I go through these questions. Don't spend too much time on them, because you might spend 20 minutes on the first one and then you've only got seconds to complete all the rest. But that's what's important, to answer everything.
Yeah, exactly. Do not leave anything unanswered. Have a go, no matter if you know the question. Pot luck is better than no luck at all.
Exactly. All right, you're going to talk to us about some tips and tricks for the exam day itself.
I am, Heidi. You're right. Okay, so obviously Heidi says you've got two choices. You can go to an exam centre, and that used to be pretty much the norm for everyone, And then I think a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago or so, they introduced the right to take it at home. So most people now do take the exam at home. And I remember the first time I took the exam at home, I was a little bit nervous just about the process there. So not really about the contents of the exam. I was happy to go in and sit the exam, but just around the process of logging on from home, what to expect, are they going to want a room completely cleared? I went over the top and completely cleared one of my son's rooms to do with it. But over time, I've learned I didn't really need to do that. I've got to have a clear desk. And I've got to have nothing around the room that is kind of visible. So if you've got a bookcase, put a sheet over it. I normally have a bed behind me. I just put things on the bed, cover them with a sheet, start the exam. The proctor will look around the room. Obviously, you've got a webcam. They'll ask you any questions if they need to. Can I see this? Can I see that? Whatever it is. And away you go. One other thing you do need to do, you need to provide identification. And you need to take a picture of yourself. Funny story I've got about that. I took a photo of myself in a completely empty room, and it came back and said, there's more than one person in that photograph. And I was like, really? And then I realized I'd caught a picture behind me in the photograph, and it identified 5 people in the photograph. So I thought it was funny, but it's a bit of a learning tip. So what else have we got, Heidi?
Well, the other thing to point out, the proctor. So the proctor is someone on the other end of a webcam. Basically, they're looking at your webcam so they can see you. They can see your screen, and they're constantly monitoring that you're there. But they do evaluate your room environment that you're in, make sure no one else is in the room. But you can also talk to them. So if anything goes wrong with the exam, you suddenly get a completely blank screen or you're having issues, they're accessible to be able to contact while you're doing the exam to say, hey, proctor, can you come available? And they will either talk to you through your computer audio, or they'll open up a chat prompt to be able to talk to you.
Yeah. Another thing as well, this is going to sound very odd, but don't talk to yourself. And by that, I mean, this is something I've done. You might read a long question. And some people, myself included, might have the habit of, reading it slowly under your breath. Don't do that. Just read it kind of in your head, because it kind of gives the impression that, you might be talking to someone, something might be recording you. Obviously, 99% of cases, that's just not the case. It's just people generally reading out to themselves while I think, but try and avoid that. I remember I did it, and the proctor was like, he gave me a warning and said, don't do that again. Try not to, read things out. And I was like, okay, sorry, I won't do that again. So we all make mistakes, and they'll give you a bit of leeway here and there, but just a tip for you when you come to take those exams. So Heidi, I think we've got a few more in store here, have we? Lots of tips and tricks. Complete the skills. Don't read things out aloud. Remember, it is NDA. You agree to a non-disclosure agreement, so don't be blogging about the exam content. That's pretty much a no-no. But like I say, if you do fail the exam, at least you've got a bit of a head start on what to expect down the track. So and at the end of it, remember, remember to celebrate. You've done a lot of work here. You put in some long hours. You've put things in your Excel spreadsheet. You've gone through them bit by bit. You've made notes that you know a lot about this or you don't know a lot about this. You've done some research. You've talked to people. You put a lot of work into the exam itself. And then, when you receive your results, it comes through on the screen. You can go, hey, you can start talking to yourself at that point. You can start celebrating because the exam is over at that point, and you've passed the exam, hopefully. We all do it. We all celebrate. So remember, that's a big part of exam, not just preparation. Well, you could prepare like that. Prepare to celebrate and know that you'll hopefully be successful. What do you do, Heidi?
I love the little celebration messages. I love to post them on LinkedIn going, hey, pass the exam. And if I don't pass, I love to see in the report that you get, at the end of the report, there's a section that talks about here's where you did really well and here's where you didn't do well. Of course, they're not going to give you the answers to all the questions. They're not going to even tell you what questions you got right or wrong, but they will give you a gauge of the topic section area. So if it said prepare your data, it might say you're strong through that, really good. Okay, a bit weak on the visualization, and it'll give you a couple of learn modules to do better next time. So you can go study up on those. So I love that. I love to celebrate. It's such a sigh of relief. You get the gusto up to hit the finish button, and boom, it appears on the screen, and you get the little fireworks of woohoo. I passed, and I don't care how far I passed through. If I got 701, I am happy with that. If I got 999, also happy with that. Just the sheer fact that all that hard work has paid off. And then, you want to go update your CV, let your employer know, if you're going for a promotion and that's some of the criteria for it, you want to celebrate and share that as well. And then help others like we're doing today.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff. And we've got a bit of a checklist coming up, I believe, Heidi, for what to do when taking the exam.
Yeah, we do. But before we do that, when we do talk about taking it remotely, there are some things, if you're going to have bathroom breaks, plan for that. I live in a little unit. Those of you in Australia would know Bunnings. I get the Bunnings fold-out table in front of my couch and put a laptop on that, and that's what I use. Make sure the smartwatch is off. Yeah, take the smartwatch off. Like Martin said, remove photos around your room if they've got people in them, because you do have to take the front of the desk, the side of the desk, the back of the desk, and the other side of the desk, and they review them before they let you get into the exam. Allocate a decent amount of time. They also make sure you've got no software running that's trying to do anything that it shouldn't. So the software check that happens initially, and you can do this check before you even schedule and start the exam, is to go through and do a check. Make sure you've closed things like Teams, Skype, Signal, WhatsApp, all of those things, anything that can record. If you've got OBS Studio, close that down. Make sure you don't have any cables sitting nearby. Smartwatch is off, phone is in a distance. If they need to contact you, they will let you know on the platform and they'll authorize you to move away. If you need to, have your phone handy as an external hotspot if it's available with your telco provider. Have a spare camera in case your webcam starts to fail. Or if anything you think is going to stress you out taking it remotely, consider going to a testing center in your area. Or if you're traveling for an event and they happen to have a testing center nearby, go sit the exams then. But I think we've covered a lot of these, but you never know, something can go wrong. Like you've got a laptop, your monitor's not working so well, so you use an external monitor. Check the rules around what monitor you're allowed to have and how. Things like touch screens, I know people are asking in the chat, check the terms and conditions. Are you allowed to have those? If you're using a company laptop, sometimes the company has restrictions on it that block you from actually running the exam software. So consider using a different device for it.
Yep. And great tip, Heidi, about you can actually check all these things on your computer like the day before. So you can download the software that you would download on the day. You will have to download a new version on the day, but you can download the equivalent, and that will check your computer. It'll go, you've got this VPN running. You can't have it running. You've got to turn it off. You've got something running that you shouldn't have, and finding that out in advance is really cool. Because the last thing you want to do is be all flustered on the day. You come to do the exam, you find out something's not quite right with your machine, and you're hurrying to switch something off or get rid of something from your machine. So just be prepared, no stress, and then you're all great to take the exam.
Yeah, and I think because we've got a short moment here, man, I might actually just whip up the simulator.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
the thing
good thinking, Heidi.
So if you've never heard about this, we have an exam experience sandbox. So what do we mean by the sandbox? The practice test is one way to learn and try out. The sandbox is a way to actually see what the exam's going to look like in terms of what is the environment. Of course, good old Aussie internet. Let me try that again. I had this open just before. It might not like it because I've got it open. Let's
It's always the way when you're live, Heidi.
Always is. I've had this happen in exams where it has a bit of a problem. If we get it to load, we get it to load. If we don't, which it might not do it. Let's see if I can. I'll see if I can get it to load. And while I'm doing that, because what actually happens with that exam simulation, not only does it take you through, it takes you through the intro to the exam. So you get the sort of a welcome screen that's like, hey, welcome to the exam. Here's the terms and conditions. You go through and go, yep, I acknowledge, next. Then it's like, okay, are you ready to start the exam? Have you got everything set up? Yep, next. Then it loads up your specific exam where you have that NDA agreement and everything to go through. And then the timer and everything starts. So with that, you're then in the exam experience. So looking at it that way, you see the timer at the top right. You see the fact that you see your progress through the questions. You see a little, it's like called a train track visual, where you can see where you are throughout the exam. You can click the take break button. You can click the button to be able to view the Learn docs. You've got all those options within the platform. So that sandbox experience is great because you're doing a style of exam. And the questions it gives you are not just multiple choice. They are just, generic questions. They're not targeted at PL-300, but you can then go through and set questions and see what a build list is, see what an active screen is, see what, drag and drop experience questions are, and really get yourself familiar. Look at the toggles. I know the timer can cause people anxiety. So some people turn off that timer because they go, hey, toggle it off. I don't want to see it. That was one of the improvements Microsoft made because everyone's different. So we like to have a bit more accommodation for the varying needs that people might have.
Yeah, you have given us some real good tips, Heidi, over the course of this hour. So let's round this out. And what better way to celebrate than to celebrate along with Power BI and their 10th birthday?
It's crazy that it's already 10. 10.
I know. It is crazy indeed. Celebrate by getting yourself a 50% discount voucher for PL-300 or DP-600.
But not only that, join the DataViz contest. There is still time. Ends next week. Check it out.
Yep, get yourself well known, get yourself on the stage and win that competition. Yep, and FabCon, I believe you're going to FabCon, Heidi. I believe you're a presenter.
I am excited. I'm going to be presenting about all things security within, the Power BI and Fabric space. So I'm excited. I'm going to be there. I got to attend FabCon in Las Vegas for the first time this year, and I was so excited to get selected as a speaker because I'm like, yes, I'm going. I'm taking hiatus from the day job, flying to Europe and presenting at FabCon in Europe.
Very well done. Very well done, Heidi. Just remember, it's in Austria, not Australia.
I know, and I'm going to have to remember the time zone change. Whoa, it's going to be a bit of an adjustment.
You are indeed. But this whole series has been recorded and is available online. We've got everything from preparing the data using Power BI, modeling, again using Power BI, visualizing and analyzing data with, surprise, surprise, Power BI, managing and securing with Power BI, and obviously what we've just done here are tips and tricks of getting through the exam. That was great stuff, Heidi.
Oh, and we've still got a moment. So shout out to our moderators in the chat there, Chris and Gaston, getting through all those questions. I've seen the chat window scrolling through, and we were lucky enough to have a few guest people join us. We had Shabnam Watson jump in the chat as well. We had our Proctor and our producer for today's session, Isabel. We also had Elizabeth, our fellow Aussie, in the chat there helping us out, answering and asking different questions. I know one of the comments she had was around some of the Power BI stuff relies on T-SQL knowledge. And if you don't know T-SQL, maybe look at the Data Fundamentals exam to give you that base T-SQL exam. Go look at the 900s, the DP-900. The other thing to point out is this exam, you do have to renew it. But the renewal exam is more like a multiple choice. It's more similar to the practice test. So you can take a renewal exam. I think it's every year. for associate and expert, which this one is. So once you've sat this exam, you don't have to go through and sit it again unless you let it expire. Otherwise, you can jump on and do a renewal style exam instead.
Great stuff, Heidi. And I think you've thanked just about everyone we needed to, apart from our audience. Thank you for tuning in. And we hope you got some great tips from myself and especially Heidi on how to pass the PL-300 exam. So I'll say goodbye and I'll let Heidi do her farewells.
Yeah, totally. I should have done that first, thanking our audience. Thank you all for joining us from all over the world. Join us for more series on Microsoft Reactor. Check out the links and get studying, get learning. Reach out to us if you need a hand and we'll connect you with the community and you can connect with us. So thank you so much. Woo.
Great stuff. See you later.